Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected US calls for a humanitarian pause in the Israel-Hamas war, telling US Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Friday, "We are going full steam ahead unless the hostages held by Hamas are released." Blinken is on his third visit to Israel since the war erupted last month. Amid fears that the conflict will regionalize, Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Lebanon's Iranian-backed Hezbollah militant group, said in a public speech that his group was undeterred by US warnings to stay out of the war. However, he stopped short of saying Hezbollah would engage fully in the war. Israeli troops also further closed in on Gaza City, launching targeted attacks within the city on militant cells on Friday. Here's what is happening in the latest Israel-Hamas war. Israel and the US appear to be taking divergent approaches to securing the release of more than 200 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. A senior Biden administration official said Friday the US believes the fighting will need to take a fairly significant pause to allow for the release, modeled on a smaller scale let-up last month that allowed 2 American hostages to be freed. The official, who spoke on the condition of anonymity under White House rules, said the release was a testing pilot for how a broader deal could be struck and that negotiations on a larger package of hostages are ongoing. The official emphasized it would require a significant halt in fighting to ensure their safety. Israel has insisted hostage releases must precede any pause as it seeks to up the pressure on Hamas and force the militant group's hand. Canadians in the Gaza Strip could leave via Egypt in a matter of days and potentially as soon as Sunday, recent communications from Global Affairs Canada suggest. An email from Global Affairs Canada (GAC) sent to Canadians in the region on Friday says those affected should have their travel documents and other important items with them and be ready to travel at short notice when contacted. The email said, "We have informed that more than 400 Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and eligible family members will be able to leave Gaza through the Rafah border crossing in the coming days, and possibly as early as Sunday. We will contact you with specific departure dates." The email further adds that the situation at the Rafah border remains fluid and unpredictable, and we encourage you to assess the risk as you or your family members decide whether to travel to the Rafah border crossing. Canada does not determine who is ultimately permitted to enter Egypt at the Rafah border crossing. The email continues saying that Egyptian government will allow those who cross from Gaza to stay up to 72 hours or 3 days. The latest update comes after Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly said in a post Thursday evening on X, formerly known as Twitter, that she spoke with her Israeli counterpart and received assurances that Canadians and their families will be able to leave Gaza beginning in the coming days. In a statement, Joly added, "My Egyptian counterpart confirmed their cooperation. GAC will communicate the latest information directly with Canadians." In Washington, D.C., this is what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau commented on Israel-Hamas war.
Before the summit started today, I met with President Biden to discuss a range of issues. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and the relationship between Canada and the United States is very important in how we engage with all these issues. Of course, we talked about the Middle East and Hamas's terrorist attack. We've all seen too much horror these last weeks. Kids being killed, pregnant women needing care, communities devastated. You don't need me to describe the horror because we're seeing it every night, every time we open social media. We all want it to stop. We need a humanitarian pause. But let me repeat what needs to happen and what needs to happen now. First, all the hostages need to be released. We need much more aid going to the Palestinian people, and we need innocent civilians to be protected in Gaza and increasingly in the West Bank, including from extremist settlers. On the issue of Canadians and their families in Gaza, we are encouraged by the assurances that Minister Joly received from Israel and from Egypt that Canadians and their families will be able to leave Gaza in the coming days. We will not stop until all Canadians are brought out to safety.
Maya, Maya, water, water is now the refrain from people on Gaza streets. The Gaza director for the UNRWA, the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, said Friday. Thomas White said, having traveled the length and breadth of Gaza in the last few weeks, it is a scene of death and destruction. No place is safe now, he said, and people fear for their lives, their futures, and that they will not be able to feed their families. UNRWA is supporting about 89 bakeries across Gaza aiming to get bread to 1.7 million people, White said in a video briefing to diplomats from the UN's 193 member nations. The average person in Gaza is living on 2 pieces of Arabic bread made from flour the UN had stockpiled in the territory, he said. But now people are beyond looking for bread, it's looking for water, he said. UN Deputy Middle East Coordinator Lynn Hastings, who is also the humanitarian coordinator for the Palestinian territories, said only 1 of 3 water supply lines from Israel is operational and many people are relying on brackish or saline groundwater, if at all. People are braving airstrikes to line up outside bakeries to obtain bread, a number of which have already been closed due to lack of fuel. Israelis are clamoring for better mental health following the devastating October 7 attack by Hamas militants, a top World Health Organization official said Friday. Dr. Hans Kluge, the head of WHO Europe, which counts Israel but not Palestinian areas in its region, said his trip to Israel last week on an invitation from Israeli leaders had 3 priorities: to mourn in solidarity with Israelis, listen to families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas, and to explore options for more aid for injured or sick Palestinians in Gaza. While a small amount of aid has been ferried into Gaza and some evacuees were allowed to leave through the Rafah crossing into Egypt, Kluge said prospects for that aid to move through crossing between points between Israel and Gaza were not on the table for now. Kluge, who met with Israeli President, the health minister and others, said the country wants to build the strongest mental health system in the world. The main needs within Israel, which was expressed by everyone, the President, the First Lady, the healthcare workers we met, the new Minister of Health whom I met, is mental health, mental health, mental health, Kluge said in an interview a day after returning to WHO Europe headquarters in Copenhagen. The Palestinian death toll in the Israel-Hamas war has reached 9,227, according to the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza. In the occupied West Bank, more than 140 Palestinians have been killed in violence and Israeli raids. More than 1,400 people in Israel have been killed, most of them in the October 7 Hamas attack that started the fighting, and 242 hostages were taken from Israel into Gaza by the militant group. Roughly 1,100 people have left the Gaza Strip through Rafah crossing since Wednesday under an apparent agreement among the US, Egypt, Israel and Qatar, which mediates with Hamas.
Media.